I think I was able to unlock Blackstone out of school and during an internship because I was quite frankly obsessed with investing and I loved it so much. Like I treated it like my sport, you know. I treated investing like my degree. I didn't treat like finance or accounting as my degree. It was kind of like a means to get like a degree, but the degree that I really thought that I earned was the time that I spent and the network that I built in investing while I was in college. Reps, 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 and then more reps, and then more reps, 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 and then more reps. Folks that absolutely crush it in the private equity process are people that practice all the time, all day. Investment bankers are logical hires for private equity because the interview process and the actual day-to-day job is similar to what people do in investment banking. So that's why they're kind of at a competitive advantage because their day jobs are kind of prep for a process. Now, if you aren't in an investment banking job, you need to be thinking very critically around how can you simulate the prep and the experiences so that you can at least be technically ready to speak to accounting, to financial analysis, to valuations, to case studies, to businesses, to portcos when it comes to an interview. And I say this because it's a very, very, very important thing to understand that, like, if the first time you ever walk through a DCF or build a paper LBO or do a case study or do like a detailed operating model on a business, if the first time you ever do that is during an interview, you didn't prep enough, right? So you want to make sure that you try to do as much prep as you can because all this stuff is like publicly available. You can work with coaches on Leland where we can just grill you and coach you and do a lot of mock interviews. You can watch YouTube videos on how to do a paper LBO or like a full case study. There's Udemy classes you can sign up for. There's so many resources online today that you can tap into to sort of like simulate reps, right? Like some of the best reps that I do, the old school way, how I used to prep, is you would take a public company, NVIDIA, for example, you would apply a X% premium to the stock price, and then you can build an LBO off of that. That's all you need to build an LBO, right? Like you build your projections, you build your operating model, you build your debt waterfalls, and you see what your returns are after a 5-year period and a few growth projections. Things like that. Like you don't need to have secret resources to prep for a private equity interview. All you need is time and discipline and structure. And coaches provide that structure. But like all you really need is time and discipline to get as much reps as possible. And this also does not just apply to technicals. Some folks spend 99% of their time doing reps to be technically ready and technically proficient. And that's great if you want to present yourself and position yourself as like an Excel like uh monkey, essentially, right? You don't want to do that. AI is going to replace Excel in a little bit, right? You also want to do reps in your behavioral interviews and showcase that you have personality, you have a great story, you have all of your answers around why you want to work at this firm or why private equity. Like you want to be so crisp during showtime that like it's a no-brainer that they should hire you. But I'm going to move on to number 4. Read to think and speak like a value investor. And I say value investor because like the firms that I've had experience with and the firms that I know well are value oriented private equity firms. Like they're looking for businesses that have solid, good cash flow. If you want to speak like a special situations investors, there's a book like that too. And growth equity investors, there's a book on that too. But I think that 90% plus of things that can be understood and learned about how to be a great investor can be learned from reading a handful of things. All of Warren Buffett's annual letters. And if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's the greatest investor of all time. And he puts out through his holding company, Berkshire Hathaway, a letter every single year on his investment philosophy, what's happening in the markets, and what's happening in his businesses. Those things are like the Bible for finance and high investing folks. The second thing I'd say is monthly memos from Howard Marks. And if you don't know who Howard Marks is, he's one of the most legendary credit investors in the entire world. And he has been putting out for the last like 30 years almost monthly letters on his investment strategy, his philosophy, and what's happening in markets. Um, and there's books on both of those I can send you all that kind of like summarizes everything that is in all those letters. But those are really going to help shape your thinking around what is a good or bad business, what is a good or bad management team, and how to grow a company. And that's all you need to think about if you're a private equity investor. So folks that invest the time to think through like what is like folks that spend the time to think through like what is a defensible competitive moat or folks that spend time really thinking about like what separates a okay CEO from an amazing CEO. Like those things are very important. But I want to make sure that you all understand that like you don't need someone to walk you through how to think about a business model, right? You don't need to have an MBA to understand a good or bad business. Like all this stuff, you can go to your library and practice and think. When I was in college, I would spend every weekend in the library reading like solid investment books, listening to podcasts from like legendary investors, helping to like build my DNA and my decision making judgment around what is a good or bad business. So that's why I say like number 4 is really important is read as much as you can about being a value oriented investor. And then number 5 is the daily deposits. And I tell folks all the time that like work with me on Leland, if you are not willing to every single day get some type of prep in, do some type of mock with me or with yourself, or send at least one LinkedIn request or email to someone that works in the space every single day, then don't expect a job in 2 weeks. Plain and simple. Like that's not how this works, right? You need to understand that everything in life has the potential to compound as long as you have daily deposit.